We are glad you are here. My name is Mark, and I use he, him pronouns. And we have Reverend Gordon also helping me out today so that I don't have to be Mark. And he uses his, her pronoun. Yes.
Well, I haven't tried the hers yet.
Oh man, it's already started. Today we have a special guest, David the Green Samaritan, who uses he, his pronouns.
When we gather together, we light the chalice. This is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. The chalice reminds us that we are connected to a much larger religious tradition that stretches out of the past, reaches around the world, and leans into our shared future. Now join with me as we say these words. We light the chalice, reminder that we are a beacon in the desert. May its light lead the way to love, acceptance, and justice as we strive for personal transformation.
We'll start with an opening poem. This is As Surely as We Belong to the Universe by Margaret A. Keip. As surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. We join here to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, to know ourselves, to be at home, here on earth, under the stars, linked to each other.
Hear these words of our land acknowledgement. The Unitarian Universalist congregation of Las Vegas is situated on the traditional homelands of the Nuuvi and Southern Paiute people. We are grateful for the land itself and for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to worship, learn, work, grow, and be in community with this land and her peoples. We encourage everyone present here to engage in continued learning about the indigenous people who work and live on this land since time immemorial, including the Las Vegas Paiute tribe and the Mawapa Band of Paiutes, and about the historical and present realities of colonialism. It is important to recognize and appreciate the use of Southern Paiute land as part of our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive place for worship, spiritual enrichment, and exploration within the community.
Ave Kwame, also called Spirit Mountain, is a sacred site in the Mojave and Sonoran deserts in southern Nevada. The mountain and surrounding land account of around 500,000 acres in total are newly designated as a national monument, ensuring that this area will be preserved into the future.
That requires amen from y'all. This is good news. All right, join us now. It's going to be on your screen momentarily, and it's in your teal hymnal number 1064, Blue Bold Home. I heard this is a favorite of some of the folks in this congregation, so enjoy. Thank you so much. Please be seated. Where the words? The words are here. Please. Of our hearts. Okay. That's you. That's me. That's you. He's got me confused. All right. It doesn't take much.
Right there.
All right.
We had to pencil in as kind of like a baseball game. We will now ground ourselves in the present and honor those with whom we will share this time. I invite you to settle into your seat, feel the chair holding your body, imagine the earth holding you. Take in a comfortable breath, and then exhale. Let the joy and despair and the frustration and the satisfaction of the week trickle off your shoulders like our wonderful winter rains. Let it collect in our hands. Set them down, not to be ignored or abandoned. They will join you on the rest of the journey today. But let them rest here. Allow yourself to be present in this space. Please find a way to acknowledge those with whom we share this time together. You might smile, place your hand over your heart, or give a small wave. I invite you to return to the larger circle, and if you have someone to be held up, please add their name to the chat. And today we only have one person, Sam Biggin, to hold up. Irma, is there anybody in the chat?
Yes, we have Sean Dawsey and Belicia Harris.
May we hold all those displaced or alone, and all these names unspoken here, and all those held in the silence of our hearts, in love and compassion. And now we'll have a pastoral hymn, number 21 in the gray hymnal, For the Beauty of the Earth.
All right. Now, ushers, would you please get yourselves ready to pass the plates? We gather as a religious community to give each one of us a place where we can do the work of many. The offering supports the mission of the congregation to be a beacon of love and justice in the desert and support local organizations working to make our community a better place for all. The offering this month is shared with Street Teens. Street Teens is dedicated to assisting homeless, abandoned, and at-risk youth in the Las Vegas Valley. The link to donate your offering will be in the chat on Zoom, and here in the sanctuary, ushers are passing the plates. Now, please join me with gratitude for the abundance in our own lives we give for the life of this congregation and the benefit of the larger community. Thank you all so very much for your generosity. I don't know if it's some humming spirit of life or something, but some kind of sound ought to be emanating from us as that money gets collected. So we're going to work on that one, all right? Ideas, I'm soliciting, all right? Thank you all for the generosity. Now, without further ado, we will bring forth, come on, stand up, good brother, an extraordinary human being. I first heard about him. I kept saying Good Samaritan. Then I'm like, no, Green Samaritan. I'm like, what's that? Well, I came to find out. The Green Samaritan and I spoke on the phone. He invited me to his place of his home. Well, there was works going on there. I don't know. And I was in awe. I was so in awe, I got a sunburn standing out in a hot sun for 2.5 hours talking to this gentleman. So please, ladies and gentlemen, and people of all ages and all understandings, I'd like to introduce David Seven McClenton, the Green Samaritan. All right.
A podium type of guy. You know, I like to walk around, I like to move around. So I'll be restricted for a minute. I gotta say that you guys are taking me back. I believe in universal energy and how things flow together. And when you start working and living in your purpose, things fall into place. And I can't tell you how things will fall into place. Before I start anything, I love to open up with gratitude. So if I can have everyone stand, and what we're going to do, just take 3 deep breaths, breathe in, hold, breathe out, and then we're just going to say thank you. So I'll lead. Breathe in, breathe out, thank you. Breathe in, breathe out, thank you. Breathe in, breathe out, thank you. All right, you guys can be seated. Whenever I'm in front of people or meetings or doing my community panel discussions, I like to open up with that gratitude because that grounds me. It keeps me focused on living in the moment, appreciating the moment. So with that, I just got to make an acknowledgement. Maggie, thank you for this. Thank you for suggesting me to this congregation and also to your teacher friend who wants to do a community garden in her school. Like I said, when you start working in your purpose, things start falling into place, right? Joanne introduced me to Maggie so that Maggie could get me to our CCL meetings. And it turns out that Maggie actually is a science teacher at my school, at my son's school. So weird. And it was like, wow, okay. And I'm up at the school a lot, and I tell my son he can't mess up because I'll be there, and I know like the counselors and the administrators, but adding another teacher to my arsenal is really powerful. And I tell them, it's like I'll come up there and I'll walk on that campus like I own it. And I have people there that I know they'll back me, so you can't mess up. But thank you, Maggie. Thank you so much for just spreading the word and just putting the Green Samaritan Group out there. This is what you call grassroots. It's word of mouth. I've heard the term grassroots growing up all my life. But I really didn't know what that was because I always joined other organizations that were up and moving and whatnot. And they're already involved in the community and had works with city councils and they were established, right? But grassroots is literally working from one person's mouth to another person's mouth and allowing that to grow, right? And sharing information. In America, we don't like to share information. We don't like to share anything, honestly, unless we're going to pay for it, right? That's the only way we get people to share. It's like they're going to put a dollar amount behind it, but no one wants to share information freely and openly and suggest this or suggest that. So with that, Maggie, again, thank you, because you're taking the steps, you're doing the work. So I have had a very spiritual journey throughout my life. I was born into the Baptist church. In my teenage years, I turned to Islam. In my early 20s, I had left the mosque and I had started searching spirituality. And in my early 30s, I turned to atheism. And now, bear with me, I'm trying to get used to saying this, in my 50s. My birthday was just Friday. I just turned 51. So I was telling Pastor Bailey, this was an awesome birthday present. Again, Maggie, thank you. It's like when the universe works, the universe works, right? Things start falling into place. I see myself more as an evolutionist. An evolutionist believes in change. And I say that everything is going to change. Change is the only constant in the universe. Even my current belief system will eventually change. As I look back on my life, it's always changed. I've grown into a different reality and being a different person. I took different elements and I started putting them together to form the person that I see myself being. And oddly enough, it wasn't until I made one of the biggest changes in my life, which was moving from Southern California, which was my base, my home, where I grew up, to Las Vegas, to a place that I once swore I will never visit again. And, you know, I always say, don't tell God what you don't do. Because you will soon find out. Everything you say you won't do, you will end up doing, right? When I was younger, my family, we drove to Vegas, and it was in a Mazda, a little Mazda. I used to call it a monster car, but it was like a 2-door, 4 seats. Me and my sister in the back seat. It's hot, no air conditioner, driving through the valley. I got sick, got a nosebleed in Vegas, had a horrible time. Didn't want to see family, didn't want to visit these people. I just want to go home. So I swore I would never come back to this place ever. And lo and behold, I ended up living here. But in living here, I found purpose. In California, I was customer service, tech support. I worked in IT. I was going to school for Cisco engineering. And I still consider myself a tech guy, right? I don't let technology beat me. Programs written by men, I'm a man. I can handle that, right? There's no program I say I can't take the time to learn. It's just a matter of me wanting to learn it. But moving to Vegas, I couldn't find a job in IT. I moved to Vegas at the end of 2019. So in 2020, by April, this whole city has shut down. And the prospects of finding a new job, being a new person from a different state, was nil. We're like, we're not interviewing no one. Don't come to our office. We're calling the police. Leave us alone. You're diseased. So I was like, okay, I'm dealing with this, right? I'm dealing with this new reality that I'm living in and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm hating this situation, but I'm trying to make the best of it. My cousin, who owned and ran a community garden called Vegas Roots, called me up in the middle of April, shortly after my birthday. A lot of things happen around my birthday. And she said, I had to lay off all my staff except for one person. And he's working in the back. Do you think you can help him with the garden? And I said, you getting me out the house and you're going to pay me? Sure, I'll take that. And I was able to get my kids out the house. So go to the garden, and she first has me pulling weeds. And that is just the gruntest of the grunt work, right? Just getting a shovel, pulling out weeds and breaking them down and repurposing these plots. And a lot of the stuff was overgrown, right? So there's a lot of weeds to pull. But I got good at it. I did it, and I did it with purpose. I wanted to make sure that these plots looked presentable when people came to look at the garden. And before I knew it, the garden started getting more traffic. People were looking for places to get out because we were shut in and we were locked in. And there aren't many outdoor places you can go to in Las Vegas. But Vegas Roots was one of those places, and people were coming to the garden. And while a lot of people had a terrible pandemic experience, mine was the complete opposite. I met new people every day. I walked around and I talked to people and I showed them different things. And I took my engineering background and I applied it to the garden and just started doing methods and growing things and figuring out different ways that we can make things happen. Before we know it, we have tours going on. I created this touring system that took people all around the garden. I showed people what you can do with mesquite. I showed people how you interact with bees. A lot of people get afraid of bees because they don't want to get stung. Well, bees won't sting you if you don't bother them, right? They're in their element, we're not. We're in their space. So I was teaching people how to deal with bees, and I actually gave a couple of demonstrations on how to get stung. And those are the things you don't want to do, right? But in that, I started to grow into this idea of planting and growing food. I saw the need for it. My cousin often would tell me, we're doing this to fight food insecurities. And, I'm coming from California, capitalist mindset, and I'm just starting this thing. I wasn't into the mindset of sharing, right? Because I'm growing this food and I don't want someone just coming and taking it. But she says that's what it's there for. What we can sell won't pay the light bill. If we can make a little bit of money, that's all right, right? But that's not the goal. That's not the purpose. And that her mindset changed my mindset. Because then I started to think, wow, it's okay. I can grow this. I was so possessive of my watermelon patch. When I started growing watermelons and I started seeing my designs work, and so I started taking care of them, I took the time to even name each of the melons. I kid you not. Yeah. So when someone would come and take one of the melons, I knew what was missing. I was like, you can't. And she was like, no, David, it's there for them. That's what it's there for. If someone wants to come into our space from over the wall, pick the fruit off the trees, pick the fruit from the vines, it's because they're hungry. We're fighting food insecurity. This is our purpose. So I made that my purpose, right? And then I started to learn. She taught me about composting. And they had a very rudimental, never mind. They had a basic composting system. And I took my engineering mind and I was like, wait a minute, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? Blah, 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 blah. And I started making soil, right? And she started telling me, that's God's work, because God took the settlement and made the land. I was like, wow. I was like, that's kind of heavy. I'm like, I'm just trying to, do the compost so we can put it in the garden. She's like, yeah, but we don't grow in Vegas soil. We grow in our soil, the soil that we make. And it's amazing that you can take trash, things that people discard and throw away, and then repurpose that into something else. So I started to think, what if we took every single use item and gave it a secondary purpose? We could reduce our waste by 60 to 75% just by repurposing a microwavable bowl that you're going to throw away, right? water bottle. So speaking of water bottles, I started collecting these at Vegas Roots. And I took the caliche, that is dirt and sand, which is Vegas is made of, and I started to pack these bottles tight. And I made bricks. And I started showing people, this is a building material. This isn't waste, this isn't trash. You can take this dirt and fill it with this bottle, and you can build with it. And I started showing people how you can make structures. And I built like pits and different things. And people were amazed at how this water bottle, after the water is gone, how it can become useful, right? And I look at that as just not with our single-use items, but I look at that as our humanity as a whole. People feel that once they can't do a certain thing, they're useless. No, you still have purpose. You still have usefulness. You can still contribute. Everything needs to contribute, right? So I'm giving you guys a couple of facts. These are facts from 2019. I don't think it changed over the pandemic, but it's going to go back up to where it is. In America, we waste 80 billion tons of food annually. 48% of all food waste in America comes from Las Vegas, not Nevada, Las Vegas. And a lot of people say, oh yeah, the casinos, they do this, they do. We're residents here. We have to take responsibility for that, right? If we change our habits, what we do, if we make it a habit to repurpose everything we use, instead of going out and spending it and buying the manufacturer design for it, but we find the ability to repurpose a bowl, a bottle. This is the planter. This is a watering tool. There's so many different things you can do. You're going on vacation, fill this up with water, put a string on the end of it, put it into your soil. You can now water your plants when you're gone, right? There's so many things that we can do, but we have to change our habits. And changing our habits will change our culture. And when we change our culture, we then have the ability to change our policies. I just had a discussion with a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, who leans far right. We were discussing Congress and their incessant need to want to protect the children. That they had the wherewithal or just the gumption to summons the CEO of TikTok to talk about data and the safety of our children, right? And some of the questions that these elected officials were asking were so asinine, I couldn't believe they were asking. These people hold office and we're paying them. We're paying their salary to be this stupid. And it blew my mind. And then a child had died doing a TikTok challenge. And this was what they were harping on, right? And so a week later, after that hearing, we had a mass shooting where 6 people lost their lives. 3 were children, 9 years old. Why isn't Congress calling gun manufacturers? If you care about our children are dying behind weapons of war that do not belong in a protected society. But there's silence. And this my colleague who leans to the right was saying, well, what can the gun manufacturers do? What can they do? Right? They're not going to stop manufacturing their guns. I told him, I said, listen, think about this. Think about this. The Model T Ford, when it was invented, didn't have AC, didn't have seat belts, didn't have airbags, didn't have a backup camera, right? These were safety features that the car manufacturers started to implement after people were getting in accidents, and cars were the number one killer of children. They implemented seatbelt laws where every car had to have seatbelts. And then they put in laws where now you're in a car, you have to wear your seatbelt. And this was the great seatbelt law of the 1970s? And car manufacturers took that and started to race to safety. What car is going to be safety? I used to own a Pinto right out of high school. And those cars were famous for doing what? Exploding, because the gas tank was in the back, right? If you get hit, just a bump, it's a boom. Ford rethought that and said that's not good for our sales, right? And then there was the Mustangs, and that's where Ford, the acronym came up, found on Roadside Daily. And they're like, we want to get away from that. We need to build a better car, right? They took the initiative to make better cars, safer cars. Airbags literally is an invention of the late 20th century, right? It's new technology. And on top of that, now we have backup cameras. I'm going to have to say that came into the early 2000s, where we put a camera in the back of your car where you can see without having to break your neck to see what's behind you. And now you have cars that have satellite images of your car where you can see everything around you. There are sensors. If you get too close to another car, it beeps to tell you to move to the side. These aren't things that Congress made them do, but it's things that they took upon themselves because they're racing to be the safest vehicle on the road, because that's going to get your money, right? It started with seatbelts. It started with seatbelts. Congress made them install seatbelts on their vehicles going forward. There was no pushback. There was no, we can't do it. There was, everyone deserves a car and to ride however they want to. I remember I used to, on road trips, after we got rid of that Mazda, we got a Lincoln, and I used to ride in the back windshield. But now the law says you can't do that, right? I remember my dad had a Eldorado with an open back, and we used to ride in the back. You can't do that anymore. It's not safe. They were thinking about safety, right? And the number one passengers that rode in the back of open cabs were kids, because it was fun. And then they started dying. And then they said, that's not good. But today, we cannot even come together for common sense legislation to help our children. And this isn't just with guns. This is with our climate. This is with, oh, I gotta be right here. Okay. It's with our climate. It's with fighting food insecurities. It's with our air pollution. Our elected officials talk about it. They want to support it. But the way our democracy is set up, it doesn't matter if Congressman D wants to do X, Y, and Z. If Congressman R doesn't want to do X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z doesn't get done. It's the power of no. And this is what we're fighting against, right? It's what our parents did with greater problems. They kicked those problems down the line and said, oh, our children will figure it out. And here we are living in this, and now we're looking at our children to figure it out. I gotta say this. Whitney Houston says she believes the children are the future. Teach them well, let them lead the way. We are not teaching them well. We cannot let them lead the way. The way to lead is our responsibility. As we have to change our habits, we have to take responsibility and be leaders. We can't put it on our kids. Our kids won't have a society to live in if we don't do something now. This is what Martin King said. This is what Barack Obama said. There is something about the fierce urgency of now. It is now. Now is the time. We can't wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. That's an old Indian saying. We have to do it now. I tell my kids. How paranoid do you have to be to pack an AR-15 because you're scared of me? Man, thank you. Because that right there, yes. But here's the thing. The ones who are using these weapons, they're not scared. They're using them with purpose. They know what they're doing. They're upset. They are hurting. They are depressed. They are desperate. And we have created a society that does not allow people to see their way out. Right? We suffer in silence. I can be going through, I don't know what, with life. My parents, my kids, my wife, my job. You ask me how I'm doing, I'm okay. I'm good. There's a saying, it's like, ain't no use to complain because ain't nobody gonna listen. I listen. I tell my neighbors, I was born with 2 ears. You can wear one of them out, I still got another one. You can talk to me, right? There's this song I heard, and it's saying something about, if you ask me, am I okay? If I'm being honest, I'm not, right? But our society does not give way to people to be that honest, to say that I'm not okay, I'm hurting. This is what I'm going through. There's legislation in Florida. Where being aware goes to die. They are anti anything that is progressive, that is truthful, truthful with the understanding of honest history, right? Honest feelings, we were told to fit in this box, right? Go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good job, get stressed out, marry someone, have kids, buy a house, have a dog, retire and die. That's the box they give us to. I'm not box shaped. Some of us aren't box shaped. That's not necessarily the plan for everybody. As I look at these beautiful flowers, I'm reminded that something I say in the garden, all flowers don't bloom at dawn, right? Everything happens in its own time, in its own way. Make way for change, make way for diversity. What I love about this Unitarian church is the diversity. You not just have diversity in people, you have diversity in thought. How amazing is that? Because we're in a society that says, if you don't think like me, you can't beat me and I will kill you. One of my favorite movies is called Dogma. And Chris Rock was talking, I forget with someone. He was like the angel and whatnot. But he says, beliefs will kill people. I'm paraphrasing. Like nations were risen and destroyed over beliefs. But ideas, that's where you get conversation, right? You have to share ideas. You have to, we all have different experiences, right? And when I look at everyone, there's threads following you from where you've been to where you are to where you're going. And here right now we have a crossroads. We're crossing paths. I don't know what you experienced before now. I don't know what you're going to experience after now. What I know is we're crossing now. This is where our threads cross. And in that, we come together to share ideas. Don't get so hung up on a belief. I'm a testament, beliefs change. Beliefs change, they can change, right? But ideas are worth sharing. Everything on this planet designed by human hands started with an idea. Nothing here came out of boom. It started with an idea. Someone wanted to have something to sit on. So they took a rock and sat on that. That's too hard. Took a stump, chopped it down, sat on that. Then it was like, oh, want something to eat on. Put a rock in front of you and whatnot. That's their table. Then they figured out they need to be flat and the chair needs to be more comfortable. And voila, here we are living in an IKEA world. But it was an idea. And someone improved on that idea and made it so that, hey, we now have variety, right? Chairs, tables, flooring, lighting. No one said, we're just going to stop at one, right? Just, we're going to have these ideas and we're going to, hey, my idea can be better than your idea. Your combustible engine is awesome, but I can make a better one over here. Oh, you guys still using combustible engines? Well, what if I use an engine that's running on water? Oh, how is that possible? Ideas, right? The science teacher. But ideas. And you guys are cultivating ideas and you're sharing and building community off these ideas. Not so much focus on beliefs, but ideas. Now, as I contradict myself, I believe that that's where we start, by sharing these ideas and building together. And being a Green Samaritan means that no matter what, I'm going to help you. I don't care how you feel about me. I don't care what your prejudices are. I don't care if you lean far right. I don't care if you lean far back. I don't care if you lean far forward, far left. Let's come together. Let's talk. I grow because I talk to people. I don't stick to my side. I might disagree with you, and that's okay. At one time in my life, I was transphobic. I used to quote, oh, it's in the Bible, this, that, no, blah, 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 blah. Jesse Jackson said, how can I fight for the equality of one group and then deny another? And that hit me. Whoa, whoa. How powerful was that for him to say that? And so I took a breath, right? And I was like, all right, I'm going to not be transphobic. I'm not going to hold anything. Because it wasn't anything personal. It was just because this is what I heard, and this is what I was able to parent. I didn't hold anything against a person for being gay. I was just mimicking what someone else was saying, right? So I changed. And I had a discussion on Facebook about the homophobic behavior that exists in the Black community. And I, in my non-infinite wisdom, said that, oh, there's no difference between the homophobic behavior in the Black community and versus any other community. And so me and this guy, we were going back and forth, right? And I'm listening to him, and I'm saying what I'm saying, he's saying what he's saying. A year later, I made a post about how the Black community needs to support the trans community more, and we need to be more open, and we need to be more accepting, because we know what it's like to be disenfranchised. So we need to open up and accept them. And this guy comes back, he's like, when did you change your mind? And I said, L, honestly, from that conversation we had a year ago, you changed my mind. It didn't change that day, but as you gave me information, it changed over time, and I grew into this understanding. I had to take time to process it. You know, we're not just going to make these changes like an on and off switch. That doesn't happen. It takes a minute for you to understand, to accept it, to absorb it, to process it, to make it so that it works for you, and that you can be like, I got this. So, as a Green Samaritan, no matter who you are, no matter where you stand, what you believe, even if you don't believe in me, I believe in you. I believe in people. So this is something I'm just starting to process and really understand. Jesse Jackson, again, in the 80s, 70s and 80s, his phrase was, keep hope alive. And I thought that was just some of the most stupidest thing you could ever say, right? I wasn't for it back then. Barack Obama introduced me to the phrase, the audacity of hope. Again, I wasn't quite processing that, right? Now I get it. I get it. Without hope, without faith, we're not doing anything. We're not moving forward, right? Hope drives us to make these changes, right? Hope is our power. It is the thing that says to us, we can do these things. Oprah Winfrey interviewed Barack Obama and asked him, before he was president, do you think it's kind of egotistical to want to be president? And he took back and says, I guess you gotta be a little egotistical to want to be president of the United States. And I was like, yeah, I can get that, because I had a big ego back then. So I was like, yeah, I can accept that, right? But it is egotistical to think that you can change the world, to believe you can change the world, to hope you can change the world. I'm just that egotistical, right? Because I believe I can change the world. I believe we can change the world. The Green Samaritan Group has a motto, Yo soy tú, I am you, right? And once we realize that we're not separated, once we realize that we are connected, once we realize that we're not useless but useful, once we realize that we have purpose beyond what society said our purpose was, once we realize that we can be honest, once we realize that we can share how we really feel, once we realize that we can be a friend and be an honest friend, and we can talk no matter our differences, once we realize we can become stewards of this earth, which will become stewards of our humanity. So I have the audacity of hope. I believe that we need to keep hope alive. Things that I didn't understand, I now preach. And I thank you for allowing me that. I thank you for allowing me that, for allowing me to share this with you. You guys have space to grow fruit. Pastor Bailey had told me about it, and he was like, yeah, this is dirt line, and this, that, and the other. We have people who come on it, and, you know, fragrance and everything. All right. Jeff takes me out there, and we walk it, and future vision. I see it. I see a lush food jungle, right? And I just told Reverend Bailey this. I was talking to someone about how they was asking me how do they keep cats from pooping in their raised beds. And I was like, simple. Go buy a litter box and some kitty litter. The cat isn't taking a dump in your bed, in your raised bed, because it wants to. That's just what it has available. Give it something else. And trust me, your plant's going to be okay. You're going to have to do a little work, but that's what we call garden maintenance. Solutions don't have to be hard. They don't have to be hard. Solutions can be very easy. What's hard is us getting out of our own way, right? To allow the simple to take place, to allow the easy to take place. Do you know how you stop watermelons from burning on the ground when you grow them in Vegas? You take pool noodles and cut them into little donuts, and you put them underneath to create a bed. Engineering gardening trick or farming trick. When you then water, those pool noodles will do what? Absorb that water. It will keep the watermelon cool during the hotter days. Amazing, right? Something I did at Vegas Roots. I was just like, I had a problem. There's a solution. Simple solution. 99-cent solution. You know, but everyone was like, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. We need to get trellises and build them up, and then we gotta get baskets so they can hang in. That's good. That's good. If you want to do a project, yeah. But simple solutions work. Be open to the simplest of solutions, right? And the simplest of the solutions is that we have that power to make change. We change our habits. We change our culture. We change the policies. And I'm going to end this like I started, with gratitude. Thank you guys so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. I know we just met, but that's okay. I make friends easy. And right now we're all friends. So thank you so much for allowing me this time in this place. Thank you, David. Thank you, man. Thank you. Wait, before you keep back up here, I got one more thing I gotta say. I got so caught up, I forgot my main thing with changing our habits. So the Green Samaritan Group asked everyone to pick up at least 5 pieces of trash a day. That's 35 pieces of trash a week. That adds up to 145 pieces of trash a month, which totals 1,825 pieces of trash annually that you can prevent from going into our sewers, our streams, our rivers, our lakes, and eventually our oceans. It's individual acts like that that can create a collective impact. So this year, thus far, I have, by myself, picked up over 2,023 pieces of trash. My goal was that because that's what the year was. But with just these 4 months, 4.5, I was able to reach my goal and beyond. Just walking and picking up trash. So I want to ask everyone to do that. We talk about simple solutions. That's a very simple solution, right? It's part of changing our habits, because doing that repetitively will get you to start thinking about how you can recycle other things and put forth and become more green and sustainable. All right, I'm done. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, going to invite Carrie up here for a quick 2-minute talk about what you can do for UUCLV.
Hey, he gave you a time.
Yes, he did.
I'm sorry.
He gave me a time frame, and it was shorter than what I talked about with Aaron. So it's a good thing I didn't actually prepare remarks today, because I figured I'm just going to talk to you from the heart. We've been having pledge drive. That's kind of officially done, but if you haven't pledged, please do. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the things you can do that you don't have to necessarily reach in your pocket to help out with. They're big things. People can put their hand up to share. The membership committee, stand up, Kim. There are things like that you can do, but you don't have to do anything that big. You really don't. Here's a simple one. We've been holding a bi-weekly potluck. Make something next week. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can go out to any grocery store, buy a salad bag, and then if you just, I don't like what they put that together. And then if you want to add, you throw something else in. That'd be nice. People like salads, especially now that it's getting warmer. If you're here next week, we want to do a cleanup of the backyard. Go out and pick up your 5 pieces of trash with our Green Samaritan. Hey, everybody helps. At least 5 pieces. There are just lots of things. If you like to play with sound systems and computer equipment. I give up my husband every Sunday. Part of the reason that I'm always here every Sunday is he has to get here early to be part of the AV team. I would love to take a Sunday off, and I know Keith would like to take some Sundays off. But you know, one of the things that would help with that? Go talk to Jeff or Keith about learning how to help out back there. We could use the people. Worship team. You see my face up here about once a month. I'm one of the worship associates. Talk to this gentleman here, Mark. We could use more worship associates. And believe me, the worship associates would thank you, because then we can take a Sunday off. There are lots of things we can do. If we get going with this garden project, oh, that's not my gig. I'm really not. The knees don't work really well. But I know they need other people. Here's another one that's not my gig, because Mornings and I don't get along. And I'm retired now, so I don't have to be a trained clerk anymore. But every third Saturday, we have a food bank here, and we actually get probably more traffic on that one day a month than anything else we do. People know about UU Sunday. Oh yeah, we're one of the places with the food bank. Come and volunteer. If you're a morning person, please come and volunteer for the food bank. I don't know, any others that I'm over my 2 minutes and y'all want to go home. Yeah, but the thing is, there's stuff to do. And here's another one.
We need help cleaning up this place sometimes.
Yes. But here's one more thing. If there's something that you see we're not doing anymore, and you think you can help make that happen, go talk to the Reverend. You know Reverend Gordon, he's here. And Megan, I don't think is here. I don't see her today. Megan, who is the current president of the board, do that. And if you want to be a bigger wig here, you know, we've got board elections coming up at the end. And if you want to be, well, I'm running for treasurer, so I prefer if you didn't do that. But then again, if you beat me, hey, then I don't have to take that on. But there, you know, I believe we're going to need a new secretary. We're going to need our large board member. So if you want to do something bigger, hey, stick your hand up to run for the board. If you don't know what you're doing, we'll teach you. There are lots of things you could do. And while I was sitting there, I'm just thinking of one. I know we used to have somebody who collect recyclables, cans, bottles, and sort of, and we had bins that this was something back in 2017 when I was here the first time. It's not happening anymore because we don't have anybody who wants to load up their car and take it to the recycling center, and that's why we stopped doing it. It's one of those things that stopped during COVID. But you know, I bet we could find a couple of bins if we could find somebody who is willing to load up the back of their car and drive it to the recycling center when it's open. I can't volunteer to do that right now because I can't drive because I'm waiting to get my eyes fixed. But, you know, if that's something you think that, oh yeah, we should do that again, told you who to talk to, do it. That's the main thing. Do.
Thank you, Gary. Call to action. April 23rd, UUCLV is celebrating Earth Day. After a special service that day, I hear the backyard might actually be cleaned up pretty good, so maybe we'll clean up the public right away. Just an idea. Also on April 23rd, any bills in the legislature need to be passed out of the first house, otherwise they will not progress no further in the legislative process. Friday was the last deadline where bills had to get out of the first committee. So there might be some announcements from here about bills that need to be supported to get out of their first house. And also, I will add, do your part, pick up 5 pieces of trash a day for the next year, at least. So.
This is our blue boat, isn't it? This is our home, spinning through time and space. The earth is our garden. It's our Garden of Eden. You make it new every day by your presence in it. These closing words. We gather here this day with a community leader, with all of you, I Think of all of you as community leaders. Ideas were shared, notions were shared, hopes were shared. Even Jesse still lives, keeping hope alive. My hope for this congregation is that we'll become more green, we'll be more activated, we'll care enough to make a difference for those 7 generations ahead of us. It starts with how we live our individual lives, and it becomes more tangible, more real when collectively we do something here at UUCLV. Let's do this, people. Let's find a way to make the world a better place. Amen?
Almost done here. Hey, Reverend. And now join with me. We release that which was called with love and gratitude, and we extinguish the flame, but not our commitment to being a beacon in the desert. May it serve us rightly until we gather again. All right, please take a moment to ruminate about the service and ground yourselves. A big thank you to our first post-COVID speaker from the pulpit outside of our congregation, David, the Green Samaritan. Thank you so much for stepping up. Yep. Yep, you're the first. Also, thank you to Keith and Jeff back at the AV table. Terry, Jeff, and Nina, it was a group project for the flowers. Thank you all for coming. And also Reverend Gordon for helping me out here so I didn't have to say all these words. Next week is Earth Day service, so join me, Margaret, and some of our special guests and friends leading a very special day of surprise. So it's going to be lots of fun. Please enjoy our coffee hour. Announcements will continue to roll after the friendship break. Thank you for coming.